the hospital is like sort of the turning point from me festering and being bitter and being angry versus like, because in the hospital I was able to like basically forgive my dad and apologize for the stuff I did to him or how I felt toward him or whatever. So like that was definitely the turning point and the reason why I said like it happened for a reason.
Parallax. You are now tuned into the Parallax Effect. It's not the message, it's the messenger. What up, Ryan? It's time. Parallax. Oatmeal's better than no meal. Guess who's back to make mountains out of molehills? If this don't move you, I bet my folks will. This beat's smooth, but trust me, there ain't no chill. Ask Ryan, if I'm lying, I'm flying. It's the sculpture of all aspects of the culture. Parallax. The People's Podcast is back, laying it down flat for you wherever you at. Your job, or your car, or your jog, or your flight. Loads of archives with no ending in sight. Hitting on any topic, long as it ain't no nonsense. You can see the others for the drama and the gossip. Word to Brett, best there ever was, recognize it. Never secondary, my eyes stay on the pocket. Parallax. And if you feeling the vibes, give us 5 stars. Oh, and follow and subscribe. Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you just passed the test. This is the Parallax Effect. Come on, Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you're here, that's mad respect. Welcome to the Parallax Effect. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Parallax Effect, where we continue to navigate through the shifting tides of perspectives. I am your host, Ryan Lavelle. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a phenomenal show lined up for you today once again. Let me mention first that you can follow us on Twitter at Parallax Effects. Once again, that's Parallax Effects with an S on Twitter, and on Instagram, Parallax Effect Media. Once again, that's Parallax Effect Media on Instagram. Today we're going to cover a topic, a very important topic that for very good reason has finally become more relevant and mainstream in today's society. We're going to discuss mental health today. And in order to do that, I've brought on a professional marriage and family therapist who has been practicing in the field for over 11 years. He's also an avid cyclist who can be found anywhere on the roads of the San Gabriel Valley, San Gabriel Valley, both at any given time. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Zac Cooney to the Parallax Effect. Welcome.
How's it going, Ryan?
Pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I'm just excited. I'm excited for this. Excited what you're doing.
I appreciate you so much for joining us today. Let's start off. Just tell me a little. I know you had to go on a bike ride this morning. So did you do it and how was it?
I actually went this afternoon. I went for a virtual ride today, about 50 minutes, nonstop pedaling.
So the virtual ride that occurs at home. Are you using an app, or how does that setup work?
Yeah. So this time I go on Zwift. You can follow me on Zwift too. You can follow me on Strava. Just my name, Zac Cooney. And it's through Zwift, and I just set up my bike in my living room. I go on the Apple TV and I can watch myself ride.
I imagine probably you and my brother might be taking some rides soon as he listens to this, because he's a virtual Zwift rider as well too. How about when you're out on the road? Like, how do you where do you like to go, and how long do you like to ride?
I like to go up either Azusa Canyon, Glendora Mountain Road, up the 2 highway up to like Angeles Crest. And then I also like to go on like the Rio Hondo bike path or the San Gabriel River bike path.
So all the long paths, I imagine. Yeah.
Some flat, some elevation gain, just depending on what the goal is for the day.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Well, thank you for taking the time out to come on and join the Parallax Effect today. I thought that this would be a great time to chat with you as as the time of this recording, it is still Mental Health Month in May, correct?
Yes, it's Mental Health Month, and it's just a really good month to just put to the forefront like topics like suicide, self-care, coping skills, depression, anxiety, you name it.
Yeah, so we want to really advocate and pursue anyone that is experiencing any of those aforementioned issues plus more,
Right.
to go ahead and reach out. You can, Zach, give them some information on who they might want to contact or how they can.
Yeah, so my little PSA is that if you're feeling suicidal, definitely talk to someone, talk to a professional, talk to your friend, talk to a church member. And also there's a suicide hotline, and you can Google it, and it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you can call, and there will be services there to help you get through those thoughts of suicide that you're experiencing.
And we'll definitely leave that hotline in the show description as well, too.
Yes, definitely.
So as we kind of get into our main topic today, I really want to start about how you arrived to become a marriage and family therapist. Like, how did you enter the field of mental health?
Yeah, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
I'll take whatever answer you're willing to give me.
So the long answer is basically started ever since I was young. My dad had some of his own mental health issues, his own substance abuse, and there is domestic violence in my household. And so at a certain point, like, I lived in a multi-generational home with me and my sister, my parents, and my grandparents. And at a certain point, like, it just got too much for my mom and my grandparents to have my dad living there. So they actually kicked him out and put a restraining order on him. And then I wasn't able to see him for about close to 3.5 years. And I could only visit him with under supervision of someone else. And during that time, he was actually homeless. And so, and then my own mental health started to happen during and shortly after. Like, I started to get my own thoughts of suicide, and actually there was an attempt in high school. And then shortly after high school, I was hospitalized, and it was like for a week. And then in college, I chose through a series of just different courses that I tried, I arrived at psychology, and then it just sort of like wanted to help people that have had similar experiences as I have.
So definitely a lot more than I expected going on. My heart definitely goes out to you, and I'm really proud that you've persevered through all those occurrences. So it sounds like this is very multi-layered. So as you mentioned, and I want to, do pay respect and show very much bring a lot of gravity to the situations that you just mentioned. You started off some abuse in the home and how that affected you in a certain way. Tell me at first, before you knew how to handle it, did you have an outlet? Did it brew all up inside, or how did that, during those first couple years?
Yeah, it brewed and it festered, and for a long time, I was just an angry child, angry person. I pushed people away. I didn't allow people into my life to, to be a close friend of mine. I had a lot of people I was like relatively good friends with, but not like anyone that knew what exactly I was going through. And I had a lot of acquaintances, but like all of these experiences that I told you, like, happened for a reason, and like, and I believe everything happens for a reason, and definitely everything in my life happened and leading up to what I am today, what I'm doing today, and the clients that I'm serving. Yeah.
And like you said, kind of those issues brewing up, lashing out, being, more angry and more, apt to
Probably
react.
better as well.
Right.
Yeah.
How was it in school? Like, is that something that people could see in you and when you're outside of the home, or how did you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like in school, definitely I was like more of the more of the student that people picked on, and definitely people that picked on especially in grade school, people picked on my stutter, how I pronounced words. But then, like, I was always sort of like the outside kid. I didn't really fit into like one like group of people or one clique, so to speak. So I was always found myself sort of gravitating to different groups because I didn't really fit in with any one of them. And that happened through middle school. And then in high school, I finally settled down and I found a group that I ate lunch with basically throughout the 4 years.
And did that group in high school, did that make situations easier for you? Did you have a sense of more calmness, or was that?
Well, it definitely made like lunch easier, and like hanging out with friends outside of school easier, and made sports easier because I would just play basketball with them after school and stuff. So it made that kind of thing easier. And it sort of just gave me a sort of like a more sense of stability, because especially in high school, after I had been through that, that's what I was needing, is some sort of like stability in the home and at school and with my friends and family. But like, so I mentioned the hospital. The hospital is like sort of the turning point from me festering and being bitter and being angry versus like, because in the hospital I was able to like basically forgive my dad and apologize for the stuff I did to him or how I felt toward him or whatever. So like that was definitely the turning point and the reason why I said like it happened for a reason.
And I want to help me paint the timeline just a little bit better for our listeners, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Because I wanted to get back to the suicide attempt, and I wanted to kind of work our way up there if you're comfortable talking about it. What were the moments that immediately led up to that? How was it thwarted? And is that when you went to the hospital after that, or how did that?
So the hospital and the suicide attempt were two separate like occasions. So the suicide attempt was like there was just so my dad was let back into the home, and I think it sort of became more rocky and more like a roller coaster ride when he got back in, but it was for the better because my parents are still married. But like,
and how old were you then?
That was in freshman year, but the suicide attempt was the year after, in sophomore year. And I think, there's just a lot of things going on, family related. But yeah, it was thwarted by like mentors and like church leaders and friends and family that like came alongside of me and walked alongside of me, and like I made a promise that I never would do that again, and I would talk to someone. So like I fulfilled that promise to this day.
And I know you mentioned that you and your sister had to go through this struggle together. Was she aware of this attempt? Did she have a role?
Yeah, I think actually my sister was the one that walked in on me. So thanks, Jazz. Shout out.
Special thanks, Jazz.
Yeah. You probably, not saved my life, but like, yeah, probably I guess I could say that saved my life. And I think there were some messages to my friend on like AOL instant messenger that she read, and then she came up to my room and walked in. So yeah.
Thank goodness, thank God she was there in time to
Right.
to intervene. And I know, and I want to just emphasize this because I know we're saying reach out, talk to someone, call the hotline. At the time, who did you feel comfortable, if anybody, talking to anybody about that?
Yeah, so like those church mentors, my friends at my church, and then also my friends, the lunch friends that I had at high school, in high school.
And did you feel judged by any of them? What was that like, revealing those, deep inner thoughts?
I don't think I felt judged. I think I felt supported. Yeah, not judged, because we were too good of friends, and the mentors were too good of mentors to like judge me regarding what was going on. They just were trying to look out for me, I think.
Yeah. And I mainly ask because I just want to try to set the message, for some folks that thinking just people are going to judge me, people are going to look down on me, like I can't reach out, like I'm stuck. And I want to encourage people not to feel that way, right?
I did, though, feel like there was a stigma around me. It was definitely something that was negative, or negative thought pattern that I had to sort of release and let go of. But like, I felt like I had this mental health stigma, and since I had this mental health issue, like everyone knew about it, but it's not true. It's like there could be stigma, but I think mental health professionals and even people that are struggling with mental health are really combating that stigma.
Especially nowadays where we're really starting to feel comfortable talking about these things. But speaking of stigma, I don't know, at least I don't have a great idea of what hospitalization in that respect looks like. Can you maybe walk us through that?
Definitely. So just before that, mental health hospitalization is probably one of the most stressful events in your life. It's even more stressful than being like incarcerated. So just throwing that out there, but the movies portray it sort of like it's like like
white
room.
walls, white jacket.
Right. But it's not really like that. I had a roommate. I was free to walk around in like sort of like the department or whatever. There was like a dining area. There was other people there. I had visits, but definitely a restricted environment, controlled environment, definitely scheduled environment. That I definitely was not used to. Yeah.
And how long were you there?
Like 8 days. Yeah.
And coming back out of that situation, was that also, a deep transition when you got back home? How was that like? Did your parents or whoever you were living with at the time? I know you mentioned multi-generational home. So what role did your grandparents also play in your life as well?
So my grandparents are amazing people. Their grandparents in a multi-generational house is like another set of parents. And they were like another set of parents. There's extra eyes, extra ears, extra wisdom because they have a lot more life experience. And just another two people that you could lean on to when in time of need. And actually, to go back to one of your prior questions, like I forgot, my grandparents are people that I leaned on a lot in a lot of different circumstances.
Right. I had kind of not really jumping topics, but on the topic of grandparents and the role that they play in your life. I'd read a book a while back called The Fourth Turning. And one of the elements that they talked about in there was how, because your grandparents don't have to actually raise you in most instances, they're a generation away from you. They have a really better, more jovial relationship overall than what you may or may not have with your parents.
I definitely think they have more rapport with their grandkids, definitely. Yeah, and they definitely, since their family, they have like probably one of the better perspectives on things, and they just know a lot more things, and they're more wise about more things. Yeah,
They
could
want,
go on, but you know, that's the gist of it.
They want to spoil you. They want, in a good way, they want you to, they want you to be happy. You're a blessing in their life. It's one of their life goals that they probably had.
I think
to
it
have
goes
grandchildren.
Both ways, because they were a joy to me, but I think I was a joy to them too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, exactly. Definitely a two-way street there. What's your relationship like with your parents today?
So like I said, I made up with my dad. My dad is like, my dad is my dad. I know his mistakes. He knows my mistakes. Like, we're like, he's my best buddy now. Like it's taken a lot of work on his part and taken a lot of work on my part, but yeah, I think really the only, like, I can say these things about my dad, but really I don't like anyone else talking down to my dad or anything like that, because they don't get to, because they didn't experience it.
Yeah, definitely protective is the way that it should be, for sure. How is he as a grandparent? Speaking of grandparents,
He loves my daughters. Especially my youngest daughter. He just loves my youngest daughter. My older daughter he loves, but the youngest one is his grandchild.
the youngest one gets all the spoils. That's for sure. Well, I'm glad the story has a very happy ending to it. Like I said, I wasn't exactly aware of all of those issues, despite I think we've been growing pretty close lately. I didn't even touch on how we met before we get into your profession as well too. Is that we met at the Liverpool bar, so both Liverpool supporters. So go Reds! You'll never walk alone.
That's right.
And I think the motto of the team is a very good motto for mental health.
Yeah, definitely. And I always have said that Liverpool found me, and I didn't find Liverpool. But like, yes, I love the fact that you'll never walk alone, because people always walk alongside of me. There's always been people that have, just prayed for me, but like gone to war with me in the trenches and seen my crap and seen my family's crap. But like, you'll never walk alone. It just inspired me to do the same with other people as they're doing it with me.
And I imagine that some of those people that you mentioned are some of your church group, right? Your church family, your church community. Can you describe kind of how the role your church plays in your life?
So that's also sort of been an evolution for me, because growing up, I was definitely more in like the evangelical, conservative, Baptist, very Calvinist. Like, there's a whole bunch of rules and you have to follow all these rules. But as I've grown, like, I've sort of been able to escape that thinking and gone to more like a progressive church, and more liberal church that's like affirming and everything, and just more follows my political ideology. But like, the role it's played in is definitely like an extra layer of support. And And like I had small groups there. I had a big clique of friends that I could always rely on in it. And like it's an extra layer, like I said, it's extra layer of social support that was outside of just school and like my friends from like my personal life too.
I'm glad, man. I'm very glad to hear that. I think we should definitely tap into all of our resources as much as we can. Talk about what our communities mean to us, including our church community, including our neighbors. If your neighbors play a big part, your grandparents, all those different entities. It does, and I don't want to be use too many cliches, but it does indeed take a village,
Yeah.
So I'm very glad, very happy to hear that.
But it's true. Like for my kids, for me, for my grandparents, for my parents, it took a village to raise me and my sister, and it's taken a village to raise my daughters, and it's taken a village to, for anyone else too. So,
and it's all definitely paid off, and we're going to get into that a little bit more because now you are the mental health professional.
Right.
You are the one who is providing these services to folks who may have gone through similar things, such as yourself. What can you tell us a little bit about your day to day? Who your clientele with patient protection, obviously who you serve.
Well, yeah. I'm not gonna say any names or anything because obviously that's personal information. But like, the clients I work with are homeless, incompetent to stand trial directly from jail, and their court cases have been transferred from the criminal court to the mental health court, and then also like prevention clients that are like they're not quite to the level of incarceration yet or hospitalization yet, so we're trying to prevent them from worsening. A lot of the clients that I had deal with homelessness, deal with severe mental health, moderate to severe mental health, and then also restraining order violations. So it's all definitely hit sort of close to home for me.
And how long or what areas? You may have touched on this. My apologies, but what areas do you mostly work in? What areas have you served throughout the LA County?
So yeah, basically all of LA County. So I have clients in Pasadena, in Glendora, in Pomona. The clients that I work with from the jails is more in South LA, and then I work at some apartment complexes throughout the greater or like more LA City, South LA area as well.
And during your practice or during your years, do you have any impactful stories that you can share with us that are that stick out to you?
There's so not really specifically, but like there's a lot of clients that have, when we got them, have been affected by severe homelessness. So like these clients, when it's sort of like a desert that has so much drought in it, that right when there's first rain, the land doesn't accept the water quite like it. And so that's the best metaphor I can describe for these clients, because right when they first start to be receiving these services, they sort of push back and they fight against it because they're used to sort of how they are living. But there's two type of clients, the ones that want to receive the help and the ones that don't and just fight against it for whatever reason. And those are the success stories. They are complete 180 turnarounds. They get off the drugs. They get back into a home like a home or apartment, and they stay there. And there's been more than a handful of those. There's been quite a lot of those stories where they continue to thrive. And then there's ones like at departments where they sort of are finishing those missed programs and probation programs, and we get them, and they stay turned around, and they don't fall back into their old patterns. And
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned in the way that you mentioned the folks who aren't quite ready to receive the help. I think those are some of the individuals that society tends to give up on because we don't really understand that. Like,
Right.
somebody wants to help you and somebody's giving you X, Y, and Z. And I want to focus on a little bit of being a little bit more tolerant, understanding, patient, and not giving up on those type of individuals.
Right. So to clarify my statement, it's generally those clients that turn around, but push back a little bit. It's very much at the beginning of the program, and it's like maybe the first month, but then they sort of get into the routine. They get familiar with the staff and how the program is run. So yeah, but it takes it's definitely an adjustment period. But these programs, the programs that they're in, are designed specifically for it to take a while. It's not a month. It's not even 2 months. It's nine months to a year. And the reason why the courts do that is because it takes time. It takes time for all the case management issues. It takes time for them to process the reasons why they are in their situations, and what they can do about it. So the way that the programs are designed is very intentional into having them go through this process, which takes time. So,
Right. Thanks for enlightening us on that, and showing that it, like you said, it takes time to reach people, but everybody can be reached.
right.
And I think,
And sort of on that, the way that I just approach therapy is that I'm not an expert. I mean, I'm an expert at, the mental health field, but I'm not an expert on someone's life. Like, you're an expert on your life. I have to learn about you. So therefore, I'm walking alongside you, and I'm learning about you as we go. So that's really how, like, I'm not an expert on their life. So like, I have to be able to learn and to humble myself that they are the expert on their life.
right. And it takes a lot of expertise, maturity to designate between the two, I imagine.
And a lot of patience.
And a lot of patience as well too. Well, very enlightening for sure. Appreciate you, bringing a glimpse of your work to the audience here at the Parallax Effect, especially during Mental Health Month. They may hear this episode after, but we still want to get the message out. Definitely while we can, as much as we can. Do you mentor folks going into your field? What advice do you have for someone who wants to do what you do?
So that's sort of my goal. My goal right now is to become licensed and to continue on being a well-trained therapist in the specific clientele that I work with. But the goal, the more long-term goal, is to provide clinical supervision to the new therapists, to the therapists that are training to do what I do. And so what I said already is just to learn. You can always learn something, but then to also take care of yourself. Find your coping skill, find your self-care routine, because you are only as good as it. You are not an effective therapist if you are burnt out, if you have compassion fatigue, if you are just angry. And the way to avoid that is to take care of yourself and to practice those self-care routines.
And staying there on taking care of yourself, practicing self-care, I imagine for you, cycling is one of those things. How do you take care of yourself? How do you practice that?
So like a lot of different ways, there's like, different relaxing, deep breathing, but like you say, the main one is cycling. It's the way how I take care of myself. It provides physical outlet, mental outlet. It can be done with groups. It can be done by yourself. So yeah, it's the best way for me personally to do that self-care. But I would also encourage everyone to get a bike and at least go biking around.
Get a bike, go biking around. You see the bike behind me.
Yeah, you need to use it.
It probably needs a little bit more mileage, as Zach and my brother will remind me and remind you, and it will get there because I got a couple riding buddies who are going to keep me pretty honest, but it's also going to do a lot for my mental health as well too, which I definitely need. So I'm actually taking a lot of advice from some of the things that you're saying. When someone reaches a point of just complete, whatever it is, mental exhaustion, extreme frustration, do you have any advice for people in that moment?
Yeah. Take a day off if it's that affecting you. And then, yeah, vacation, holidays, sick days, use them. Your companies give them to you for a reason, so use it. But yeah, even develop like what I would say proactive coping skills or self-care routine, something that takes the edge off that you can do sort of consistently and keeps you more like stable. And then also find like what I'd say is reactive. So recognize your triggers, and then when you are triggered, realize it, and then be able to implement that coping skill, whatever works for you, like deep breathing, taking a drink, change a setting, talking to someone, whatever works for you.
Yeah. Taking a non-alcoholic drink is what he meant, you guys.
Yeah, water.
Water, Gatorade, something like that. What about when you're in the field and your clients are going through a situation like that? Is there a method or something that you've been taught or something that works with them?
What I would recommend is the same thing is the 5 senses technique. So that is a technique that you look at 5 different things around you. So that's the seeing sense. Then you look for 4 things that you can hear. And then 3 things that you touch, 2 things that you smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And then by that time, you're focusing on reality versus, everything or you're focusing on reality versus and things that you can control versus the things that you can't.
I think that's a very valuable, all of that is very valuable advice, especially in the moment where people can't quite get a hold or get a grasp of themselves to be able to focus on other things around them to kind of shift their attention from the matter at hand. Very good. And I want to pivot just a little bit here, stay obviously in the mental health topic, but take it more into the sports realm because there are several athletes that really helped bring mental health into the mainstream, such as Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka. How did you feel? I'm pretty sure you felt a certain way, or maybe felt like, oh yeah, this is becoming a thing. When athletes such as those we just mentioned came out and discussed their struggles.
Well, I appreciated it a lot because not only did it give more mainstream visibility to mental health, but it also gave mental health a like a connection to the sport, the sporting realm. And I really feel for those athletes that you mentioned, just because their identity is so much highly intertwined with their sport that they chose, in terms of like they are a tennis player, not versus like she is Naomi Osaka. Like, she is a tennis player. So like it must have been very hard for either one of those athletes in like a major competition to pull themselves out of it for a mental health reason.
Right. And I constantly think of Simone and Naomi. I think of athletes too, nowadays, especially with social media being so prevalent, and your next detractor or your next person trying to give you negative attention is literally a click away.
Right.
And how folks like Kevin Durant, they come forward and they press these people, and they don't just let them get away with slander.
Right.
And how some athletes in the past, pre-social media, kind of would have questioned their success in their respective sports in the social media era.
Well, there's maybe even bringing another aspect to it. There's more recently been an athlete that's probably suffered from mental health, but also with racial issues and discrimination. Vinicius Jr. in Spain. And he had it must be tough playing as a black athlete in Spain, where there's just so much racial tension there that he has to make a decision every year whether he's going to leave Real Madrid or not. So that's, bringing another racial and mental health aspect into this.
Yeah, and sticking with football, soccer, in the Euros last year in the finals, we saw 3 black athletes taking penalties, right? Missed penalties, and how they were just completely unfairly ridiculed
by the white fans,
by the white English fans. Of course, we're talking about Saka, Rashford, and we're on live
Sancho.
right now. Sancho, thank you so much. And I just want to point out that, like, how much of a fan can you be when you revert to, and racial tendencies aren't easily removed, right? I also want to get that out there. It's not just something you just, hey, don't be a racist and wave the Harry Potter wand and then it's over with. But how much of a fan are you when you revert to that type of stuff instead of rallying behind your nation or your team or your allegiance?
I think the EPL should. I think the EPL is getting better to taking those fans out. And one step that I've noticed recently is, and to answer your point, they're not fans, and they shouldn't be involved in the game. But one step that they're taking next season is to cut out like hate chants, and they're calling it hate speech, I believe, or what's the correct term for it? But
I think hate speech.
Yeah. And so they're criminalizing that, and so that's a good step. It's a small step, but it's still in the right direction.
Right. And I think there was a couple of instances when on the show, what's Ryan Reynolds? The team is Wrexham. Welcome to Wrexham, where a couple episodes have focused on some of the hooligans that go to stadiums just looking to stir up trouble,
right?
As well. And I think that culture also is conducive to. And I'm not saying all hooligans do one thing or another, but if you're trying to stir up controversy, that is something that should be obviously definitely frowned upon, but legislated against as well too, because it's all kind of the same bag.
And I think in America in the United States, we sort of don't understand that sport and fans are so highly connected outside of United States. And there's a good Vice documentaries on the world of sport outside of America and just how much it means to them. And I think in the English Premier League, it means more to these fans than maybe some U.S. leagues.
Yeah, and I think let me compound on that point. In I think it was an interview that Luka Doncic, and I don't want to. I'm paraphrasing a little bit what he had mentioned, but they were asking him about the pressure of playing in the playoffs and the crowds, and basically he was just pretty much like, you know, where I played, like there's fireworks in the stands, like there's, and I think watching some of the games overseas, I don't think you really get a good feel for it. We were at SoFi Stadium for actually the first soccer exhibition that they had there. They had a doubleheader with the LA Galaxy and LAFC, and they the teams that were coming in playing were Chivas Guadalajara and Club America. It was a doubleheader. I think it was Club America against, I believe, Galaxy, and then Chivas against LAFC, or the other way around. But anyway, we're walking into the stadium, and Jasmine has like snacks in her pocket, and they like check her pocket, like, you can't bring any snacks in here, can't bring any water in here. It's like, oh, okay, like she's, you can't really bring anything in here. Once we get inside and take our seats, and they were also like, oh, you can't have like a sign that's bigger than, I don't know, let's just say 2 by 3 feet. I don't know.
Right.
Once we get inside, we have a seat. There's like a big old like Club America banner that has to be like 12 feet long. She's like, how'd they get that in there? And then as soon as the game starts, flares, mini fireworks. How'd they get all that stuff in there? Right. I'm just like, this is the culture. Like, this is like a regular day.
Like, yeah. And so like the Boca Juniors and the River Plate game in Argentina is a good example of how crazy a game can get. Like they literally walk in from 2 different sides of the stadium. They can't walk in together. They're separated by like riot gear police. There, after these games, there's like fighting, there's rioting by the fans. Yeah, especially this last one.
And just to give it context, River Plate, Boca Juniors, 2 of the major soccer teams in the Argentinian league. So both Argentinian leagues. So all fans of Argentinian descent, usually. And this would be the equivalent of a New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox,
but
LA
like
Lakers, Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
and with a lot more hatred. So just to give some folks out there a little bit of context.
And generally with those rivalries outside of United States, there's a racial tension, there's a religious tension. It's not just like you decide what team you're like. If you grow up in a certain area, you are this fan of this team. It's not like it's a decision in America or United States.
Right. And you can just kind of pledge allegiance to a different team one day or the next day. You're kind of indoctrinated into that kind of system. And it is definitely, I would like to go to one of those matches where we play Boca Juniors.
Right.
I would like to go to a Barcelona Real Madrid. I know we're having some issues there with Vinny Jr. And I hope that the La Liga Federation comes to the right decision in backing him because obviously he deserves it, but I mean, he's done, if anything, he's done a lot for the team as well too. Like the team should back him up.
He's an outstanding.
It's the right, it's the right thing to do. But even he's an outstanding player nonetheless. So like, what's your excuse? But yeah, I thought it was very, very good in-depth breakdown conversation about all aspects of mental health today. So I really appreciate you coming on. But a lot of mental health being balanced is having some fun. So we talked about kind of what you do to help balance yourself, but from on the fun side of things, do you like to travel? Do you like are you do you like exotic foods? Do you like different coffees? Like, what's that part of Zach like?
Okay, so that part of Zach is I do like to travel. I've been to more than half the states in the US. I've been to some countries. So I do like a lot of different type of like TV shows and movies. I do like Belgian beer and some of the like the whiskey liquors and stuff like that. Let's see.
I think a big thing that we bonded on was Southern food. And we talked about, so I'm actually going to give it right back to you and let you go forth on that first, and I'll follow up.
My Southern food is any barbecue, anything from New Orleans. Yeah, gumbo, jambalaya, etouffee, anything like that. Greens, yeah.
If you haven't been to New Orleans, I'm biased. Probably Zach is too. But that's okay. This is the best food that you're ever going to have, top to bottom.
Hands down.
Bar none. And I haven't even been everywhere.
I would be so out of cycling shape if I lived in New Orleans, just eating that food every day.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, please make that happen for sure. But bringing it back to the conversation at hand, very good that you continue to serve your community. You're doing God's work down there. A question that I have for you is when you're out in public, and I ask this question kind of selfishly because I'm going to tell you why in a second, and you say you're a therapist, mental health therapist, what kind of response do you get?
There's they can respond in a few ways, but the funniest one is like, can you read my mind? Do something like this, or like, Star Wars-esque like mind, the mind shaping that they do, and
the Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one way. The other way is like, what type of therapist are you? Are you a physical therapist? and then I have to say like, no, I'm a mental health therapist. So
yeah. And I say that because when I talk about what I do in public, I'm a physical therapist. The number one thing I get is like, oh, well, I have this low back pain, or I hurt my knee, and I don't mind it. I'm not knocking anybody out there. I'm not making fun, but I'm more of the rehabilitation neuro diagnosis type of side. Not to say that I don't know anything about low back pain. I'll definitely give you everything that I've studied and heard of, especially the latest and greatest. But I just wanted to, have that dialogue with you to see what it was like when you asked that question as well, too.
And then the other way that I haven't explained, it's a little bit more deep, but like, I tell them what type of, after I say mental health, I say what type of clients I work with, and they're like, oh, dang, you do that? That must be really tough. I mean, and it is, but like what I've been saying this whole interview is like, I wouldn't have it any other way because of the things that I've been through. Like, I can't just, stop working with the homeless because I feel like I would give up what I'm called to do.
Right. And is it easy to turn it off in public? Are you looking for maybe certain phrases or whatever from people that you talk to, maybe your family and friends, when you're out off the clock?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and it also has to do with my self-care. But one intentional thing is I don't work really in the city that I provide therapy in. So like, right now I only have one client in Glendora where I live. And I generally am coming home from LA. So I have about an hour 15 to decompress, to compartmentalize my work and home life. So by the time I get home, I've already been listening to music or a podcast or a book, and already decompressed. So like it stays in the car, it stays at work, and like, yeah. So I don't bring that home.
And that is, to me, is a mental health skill in its own. Because there's been many times where I brought work home. I stay in that mindset on the road when I'm out. It's really hard to sometimes escape from that, especially when you're thinking about something maybe you could have done better, in those type of situations where you're kind of really self-analyzing yourself.
Shout out to my wife. She always asks me how my day was. And I mean, I don't want to be rude, but like I always keep my answers brief about work because I don't want to get into it, and like I'd rather not dwell on anything that happened at work. So,
well, shout out to you, Natalie, for
Definitely.
keeping young Zac here focused and honest and on his best behavior. What did we learn today, Zac? I'll start off with myself. I really like the 5 techniques for the senses to start with vision and work your way down, trying to back yourself out of a very combustible situation.
Like ground yourself.
Yeah, I really think that was very valuable. I'm gonna try to practice that. You're the one teaching us, so it's kind of me asking you what you learned. It's probably what you taught us today. But any recap or feedback from this episode?
Well, I learned about the parallax effect. I learned that it's you always can see something from a new perspective, and I learned that everyone has their own perspective, and that as a therapist, like I need to do a better job or continue to refine my skills about learning how to walk alongside one of my client or any of my clients or all my clients, and just like learn from them because they're smart. They know their life, and I need to learn from them. So I mean, it's not necessarily like something I'm learn, but like just something that I need to refine, I guess.
Yeah, we can always use a little bit more focus or maybe some reminders and stuff like that. And that's just really what the parallax effect is about, is just taking different perspectives, putting them in the forefront, having a conversation to where we can get to understand each other a little bit better, learn something from each other. We have, a society right now, and I don't want to focus on the negative, but there's a lot of cancellation. There's a lot of, you can't say this, you can't be this, you don't know what it's like.
For this episode.
Yeah, well, you know what? No, that's definitely not going to happen, because we're going to rally the people around behind you for sharing your story, for doing it during such an important time, for maybe making somebody else who maybe didn't want to talk out or didn't want to talk to somebody or reach out. If we can reach at least one person, I think we've done our job here.
That's definitely why I did it, because not everyone I talk to, I share this to, and this is definitely the first time in a public format where I've shared the details, where I basically shared my story and my perspective. But yes, was one of my main purposes to sharing that, is so that I can help someone be comfortable sharing their story and sharing what's going on with them, because they need to share their story during that time of trouble.
Everybody definitely deserves to be heard. We thank you so much for choosing us to share that story with. Definitely. We know that may have been hard on you to talk about, but you did very, very well. We appreciate all of your hard work out in the field, at home, and everything like that. This has been an episode of the Parallax Effect. I really want to thank my guest, Zac Cooney. How could the people reach you, Zac, just in case they have some follow-up information or just want to be more involved?
So Instagram is my main format. It's Zacka's Psychologist, so ZAKAS _psychologist, CYCOLOGIST.
Perfect. You heard it. And I'm going to say it again. Instagram, it'll also be in the description of the show. Zacka's Psychologist. That's ZAKAS _CYCOLOGIST. AMFT. You can follow us on Twitter at Parallax Effects. Once again, that's Parallax Effects with an S. On Instagram, Parallax Effect Media. Please be sure to leave some feedback. Tell me how I can do better. Zach did fabulous, so do not critique him because he did great. Be sure to give us a rating, hopefully 5 stars, so we can start reaching out and reaching more people with our message, with our show. It means a lot to us. We are going to be signing off here for myself, Ryan Lavelle, for Zac Cooney, the psychologist in more than one way, cycle, and psych with a PSY and a CYC as well too. The legend, man. So thank you for joining the Parallax Effect, where every angle reveals a new depth of understanding.